Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. We just got some pretty surprising news about how Xbox could be massively changing a key component of Call of Duty in the not too distant future. You may recall that a little while back, towards the start of March, we discussed this rumor from COD Warfare Forum saying Call of Duty could be getting pulled from day one Game Pass releases under the Xbox restructure plans due to all the various leadership changes with Phil Spencer and everyone stepping down there. The change is rumored to be happening due to the massive amounts of money it has lost since the takeover of Activision. There will be other changes too, apparently. For now, this is just a rumor. And just so happens that we now have even more details that connect the dots to this original rumor. Charlie Intel ends up reporting on this or aggregating this from Jez Corden from Windows PC, in which he said in a recent podcast episode that Xbox is now seriously considering removing Call of Duty from day one Game Pass on Xbox this year, which means that Modern Warfare 4 would not launch as a day one title on Game Pass. Now, of course, the whole COD and Game Pass saga has been pretty interesting because it started initially with the day one stuff with Black Ops 6. And while Black Ops 6 broke a ton of records and did really well at launch, it obviously fell off very hard, and its launch sales were not as great as they could have been because people were obviously taking advantage of Game Pass, because it's genuinely a good deal if you're obviously going through and playing a bunch of different games. Now, just for Call of Duty or just for one specific title, especially because after the fact they ended up going through and raising the price of Game Pass even more, it's become a little bit more, situational for some players, but that was obviously a huge deal. But then when Black Ops 7 came around, we obviously saw that its sales were some of the worst in nearly 2 decades, basically, and a good chunk of that is largely because players were once again taking advantage of Game Pass and playing that day one via that instead of outright buying the game. So that meant that Black Ops 7's launch sales were largely underwhelming, especially compared to even recent years in COD that weren't that incredible, right? So it was this whole thing of okay, it's obviously getting some players on the game, but it's really hurting the sales numbers. What exactly is the ultimate plan here? Is it making money? Is it not making money? Like I said, they had to raise the price of Game Pass as well, which had a lot of pushback and a lot of backlash there. This entire situation, though, if COD were to do this year, is certainly an interesting gamble for a multitude of reasons. It could certainly push the MW4 sales reports much higher because people who are going to go get the game, if they were already planning on playing it, but it's not going to be on Game Pass, so they don't get it through that, well, then they're still probably going to buy the game. At the same time, though, this is a pretty busy year for gaming, right? When Modern Warfare 4 is dropping, say this drops at $70, you've got GTA 6 dropping at $70. If they drop in close proximity, you're also going to have a huge chunk of players that are going to say, do I really want to drop 70 on this game, play it for a little bit, and then drop 70 on this game, play it for a little bit, or am I better off spending that 70 once, playing the game for a longer time, and then maybe looking into the other? You're going to have a lot of people in that boat. You're also going to have a lot of people who originally were planning on, okay, I'm going to play MW4 via day one Game Pass, then I'll buy GTA 6, and now that's no longer an option. So this would be a very impactful, I think is the best way to describe it, move for Call of Duty and for Xbox if this ends up coming to fruition. And considering now we've got multiple reports saying that this is being seriously considered, it certainly looks like it very well could come to fruition. DK Dynamite did quote this report, and I think he has a valid point that he brings up here, saying, hot take, but this sounds like it could be the right move. Day one Game Pass allegedly hurt overall sales for a game like Black Ops 6, which still broke records, as I just alluded to. Game Pass support about halfway through the cycle, similar to what Modern Warfare 3 did, could spike up players when there's usually a drop-off. This honestly could be a bit more of a strategical play for Call of Duty. Again, though, they're just running the risk of what could those launch sales look like, and that could be very dependent on the marketing, the reveal for MW4, the beta for MW4. If things go over very smoothly for that and the game does make substantial changes, it gains back some trust and some hype from the community, well, then there could be a huge sales record met at launch. If it doesn't do that and there is some skepticism, some hesitation going into the launch of MW4, then the launch sales are not going to maybe be that, massive by any means. But if they wanted to try and cause an internal resurgence, if you will, they absolutely could wait until, you know, season 2, season 3 and say, okay, now MW4 is officially on Game Pass, take advantage of that. That could spike players back up to a larger number, maybe after that honeymoon phase is over and that post-launch hype is over, and maybe the GTA 6 launch hype wave is over too, although that might last for years, quite frankly, especially with online potentially coming after the fact. Like, it's going to be tough to compete against that, even though they are two very different style games. GTA 6 is just going to be such a monster in the industry in terms of just like siphoning players from every niche. So it's going to be an interesting approach to this launch cycle for COD in a very, very pivotal year. The Ghost of Hope also raises some pretty valid points here. He talked about this towards the end of March in a conversation with T-Dog, saying, you know, if MW4 flops, like, this could be really rough for COD, right? Hope goes on to say it kind of maybe depends on what the flop is. Is it a financial flop where the sales aren't crazy? Is it, you know, getting negative perception on social media, but the player count is healthy? Hope makes this point, though, at least with Black Ops 7, they hooked the hardcore and competitive side of the community with the game, like that core gameplay a lot of people seemingly enjoy, even though it's not the most hyped COD globally. MW4 has to somehow win those guys over and get those competitive players back and still have their trust, but also get casuals back to the game as well. That's a hard ask in a year with a lot of games and GTA 6 coming out around it. We don't even know if it's going to be on Game Pass still too, so even harder for them if there's no Game Pass access for Xbox and PC players. He then just quotes this a few days back saying, they're really gonna try and make people on Xbox and PCs spend $70 on Call of Duty again in a year with a ton of games like GTA 6 coming out. So this could be a massive gamble. If Xbox actually goes through and shuts down Game Pass day one for Call of Duty, at least for this year, it could pay off with, you know, massive launch sales if the game is very good and the game is hyped and the marketing actually hits. It could be incredibly problematic though for the launch as well, especially if they end up landing near GTA 6. Like, keep in mind, we still don't know when MW4 is going to be launching. We don't even have the official reveal yet as of now, right? So, you know, maybe in the next month or so we start to get some details on that. Of course, when we do, I'll be sure to keep you guys up to date, but like, this is definitely an interesting play from Xbox and, you know, from those involved with this decision. Again, if it comes to fruition, still as of right now, a rumor, but a massive deal if they end up following through with this that could have really an astronomical ripple effect on the franchise, quite frankly, because they need Modern Warfare 4 to do so well, because COD, you know, has been sort of plateaued for a while now and the general perception around the game is not great. This could have effects on obviously the long-term, you know, MW4 stuff going on there, potentially their long-term plans with Warzone and DMZ. This could bleed into COD 2027, which is supposedly that new sub-franchise from Sledgehammer, 2028 with whatever Treyarch's cooking up next. Like, this could end up impacting things for years down the road, depending on how things play out. Obviously, as we get any new information on this situation, any more rumors surface, or we get anything official here, you guys know I'll be keeping you up to date with all things going on with Call of Duty and surrounding it as well. So feel free to hit that subscribe button to get all that need to know info. And if you guys enjoyed this video, hit that like button on your way out as well. But that's going to wrap things up. Some pretty surprising news here, to say the least. Once again, though, thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, take it easy. Have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll catch you later. Peace out.